Yay, it's official. Okay. How is everyone doing today? So glad that you could join us. If you're watching live, do me a favor and say hashtag live. If you've got the replay, hashtag replay. And also, don't forget to tell us where you are watching us from because I just love to see where everybody's at. I'm in Dahlonega, Georgia, which is like the North Georgia mountains. We're in the beautiful time when it's leaves are falling and the leaves are all just beautiful neon colors and everything. It's actually people come up here just to see the leaves. So, and I used to be one of those crazy people that used to come into the Georgia mountains to look at that. Now we just get to look out the door, and it's really beautiful. What about you, Terri Lynne? Where are you?
Hi everyone, I'm coming to you from Connecticut. So we are post peak in the leaves. So we're now in the brown ground leaf stage.
Oh,
Uh, but starting to see beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and the fall is upon us. And I don't know about you all, but Christmas is coming early around here. The trees and the lights are up. Nobody's waiting for Thanksgiving to finish this year. I don't know about y'all.
I
I'm
think it's
excited.
because people have been stuck in their homes and they're just getting a little squirrely and they're just like, ah. Well, one of the things that I do for my job is I work for a company, a card company, Hallmark, and they have us start setting Christmas like in July, some things. So um, you would think that I would be completely sick of Christmas by the time it gets here, but usually by Halloween, I'm thinking, wow, I really want to listen to some Christmas music. So it actually does the opposite for me. So, all right, so everybody, I want to let you know a little bit about our speaker today. And as you know, I'm Sharon. I'm serial entrepreneur, and you can find me with About My Sister's Biz, or you can find me at To Buy Today. This is Terri Lynne, and she is a faith-filled wife, mother of four boys, ranging from 1 to 8. She is an educator, a consultant, and an author. So you've got a treat in for you for today. She has consistently spent her life connecting to her purpose and place in the present moment in time, setting for a vision for the next level, creating actionable goals and steps, and doing God's work to make it happen. It's nothing better than that, I gotta say. You can keep God first in what you're doing. You can't go wrong with that, ever. Just like for today, like this situation today, it's all good. She has worked tirelessly on project after project, including earning her doctoral degree from Teachers College, Columbia University, designing and building her dream home for her family, writing and co-writing books, and now starting her own consulting business. She's helping business owners set forth unique business plans to target sustainable achievement of their goals using the same process she used to accomplish all that she has accomplished. So, welcome, Terri, to our call today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be in front of this audience. I find sometimes, a little bit of hesitation in terms of my faith and where I've been and how I know I haven't done this alone. But there's certain audiences where you have to be careful about that. And I appreciate being here and with you all because there's no way, none of this would have been possible without God and the Holy Spirit speaking to me the whole way.
Yeah, I feel the same with what I have accomplished in my life. There are things that, my husband and I afterward, we think, oh, wow, how did we accomplish that? And then, of course, we know. And then we say, of course, it was God, because we never could have done it on our own, because the circumstances actually called for it to not be accomplished. And instead, it was accomplished. So it's pretty awesome how you can have that faith and bring it into your everyday life and not try to categorize it into certain places.
Right. Those folks who are on Sunday, right? Faith filled on Sunday. And then we see him 6 days, right?
Right.
I've
The saying of be the same person the other 6 days of the week that you are on Sunday. Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's just jump right into our conversation for the day and we'll see where it takes us. So, Terri, what role does your faith play in the decision making?
Yeah, and I think that I started to allude to it here, that discovering, my relationship with Jesus and discovering that he's able to speak to me through the Holy Spirit in ways that I never thought possible. My journey to this point, what started early. I always kind of knew I had some kind of, I don't want to say I see it as set apart now because of the language, but earlier I just felt really cared for, really taken care of, but I didn't really know. I grew up Catholic faith wise, and I struggled with Catholicism because it felt very separate. So in college, I just tried to find the right church for me, tried. But I kind of found that praying and reading and, checking out sermons online brought me closer and more understanding than even sitting in like a Catholic pew. So, I just continued to listen to that voice over time. And I always found that when I wasn't listening to that voice, when I wasn't hearing or following or going by the principles in the Bible, I felt this unrest. I was upset. I had knots in my stomach. I knew I was not doing something right. So as I got older, I was able to kind of tune in continuously and just stop and say, okay, what am I supposed to do here? And so I didn't have the best luck dating for a while. And it actually worked out because so my husband and I went to college together. We weren't dating, we were friends. We connected years later. And the only way I was able to really snag him or, was listening to the Holy Spirit. I had to stop, and generally it was the opposite of whatever behavior I had previously in relationships. And I did that over and over and over. So I listened and I listened, and I have the most wonderful, God-fearing man of Christ at the head of our home. So I just kind of continuously listening to that voice and also listening to the, hey, there's something not right here, and stopping before you make a big decision and turning when God's not with you, when God's not in that lane. You gotta move to the other lane. And I feel so blessed, to have had such guidance, because there's just no way these pieces would have, like, even like going to college. Like I'm, I would say I'm an average, student. There's nothing that special about me other than, my God connection. So, again, that's why I'm so glad to be here with you all. It's been wonderful throughout every piece of my major accomplishments and major blessings, right?
Right. One of the things that's so awesome about having God right there as the head of your life is that with you and God, you're always the majority. You may not always feel like it, but if you just stop and think, you really just are, because God is everything, everything good. And so you're always in the majority if you've got God on your side and in that lane, as you
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
right. I think of like the path, even the road not taken is bright, when you're spirit led and when you're filled with God's word and what he has for you. The dark path, the hard path is even still totally manageable.
Right. Absolutely. I agree as well. So let's talk about business. Why is your business planning strategy unique?
Yeah, and I think I've seen a lot of, and I'm doing a lot of market research, right? Like, how are people planning? What are people doing? And I think for me, taking both the sort of big elephant and chopping it down, kind of having monthlies, quarterlies, and then what I ask people, what I help people do is take your take your objectives, right? So we've got like a vision, we've got a mission, we've got goals, we've got objectives, and then we get down to tactics, right? So we thread all of those through, and then we take those tactics and we calendar them. But we don't calendar them first. First, we calendar prayer time, exercise, family, sabbaticals, right? So instead of kind of fitting in the things of our life around our business, I do it the opposite. I say, okay, what does your ideal day look like for you to be a healthy and filled human being? And then we're going to put the tactics in, and they're going to fit right in to help you reach your goals. And so it helps you focus on your whole person and keep the balance, but also stay doing things in your work time, right? Some of us moms only have 3 or 4 hours a day to actually work, right? Especially now we got kids. I don't know if you're dealing with that grandkids wise, but like, children home doing school, so we have to be very careful about how we spend those minutes, those work minutes. So that's been my skill, is to kind of eat the elephant bite by bite without becoming overwhelmed or spending 14 hours a day working.
Yes, I know that, especially as entrepreneurs, you're so passionate for what you're wanting to do and learning to do that you can sometimes allow it to kind of take over. And I know that this year, especially, lives have been turned upside down with children now being at home, most children full time. And there's just been a difference that has had to adjust. So it's great that you have still your game plan of taking care of your relationship with God first and your relationship with yourself, and then letting the business come after that and not before that. So yes, I would say that's unique as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't take more time. It doesn't take time out. What it does is just really focuses your time and focuses your accomplishments to make sure that you're not wasting time. It's really those, time wasters spent that are unfocused and not towards the goal. So looking at too, what do you have to do and what should you do and what brings you closer to your goals and objectives. Because I find getting into the space, because I didn't know anything about this space in March, March, 20th. My whole world, looked different, as all of ours did, right? So I didn't know any of this existed really before then.
Yeah.
I just started course, freebie, free challenge. I was like, okay. And I didn't get a lot done. And so I've been there where you're like, okay, I need to learn, but it didn't really help me get to my goals.
Right. That's true. So I know that you've been in the educational um, side of things for what, 18 years.
Yeah.
So is this exactly what made you transition? And well, just tell us what made you want to transition over.
So I interestingly enough, I my undergrad is in mathematics. My dad had asked me, please get a BS in something. He was an engineer. Okay, you want to be a teacher, but don't be an English teacher because you don't have to fall back on. So and again, this is directly connected to my goal setting process. Okay, this is what I want. So I did the math undergrad. I did a 5-year teacher program and did math teaching. And then of course I'm seeing like, okay, I can do more. I can do more with this. So I became an assistant principal. I think I was one of the youngest ones in New York City, early 20s, just, doing some big things. Again, looking at systems, helping schools kind of turn their systems around to help students. So I got recognition for that and became a district achievement manager with the city after that.
That's huge.
Oh my God, I had like 30 schools in my portfolio. I loved it. Like 30, like, 'cause that's where I'm saying, okay, this is exciting to me. If I could work with like 10 or 15 people on their businesses, this is my role, my wheelhouse.
Yes. Yes.
But I always kind of knew I had the higher ed bug. I wanted to get my doctorate. So at one particular point, I just threw a bunch of applications out to schools. Again, not really thinking I'd get into any of those and I'd go to my tier 2, but I did. I got into Teachers College by the grace of God only. So then I became a professor of math education. So here I was at the university teaching teachers. And now my role is director of teacher education at the regional university. And I started to look around and say, okay, where am I? What's next? I'm not really interested in being like a dean level or like a provost. So those aren't really, it's not my skill set. My skill set is really taking a project, making that vision, breaking it down and helping people like roll. And I did a ton of consulting in the schools before March. So I said, how can I balance and take some of these pieces together to still help, to still serve people with my gifts, but not necessarily be in a 9 to 5 where, you know, I kind of only have like this much like influence. So kind of taking all those pieces and put them together, and I said, whoa, what's out here? And I was introduced to Russell Brunson and some of the other big um, you know, names by my cousin. He said, Terry, you should check these folks out. You're gonna be into this. And my husband has a business. He's in fitness. We turned that into like a fitness online mastermind for this space because he would do a lot of workshops in person. So I helped him kind of build his little funnel. And so that was fun for me. I really enjoyed it. I said, oh, I could probably help some other people. And so last week I did a challenge with my sort of beta offer, which was the dream project. I wanted to help people put together this action plan to make their dreams come true. But I found that it was really too big and really too wide, and just it just was, it wasn't an elephant, it was like a herd of elephants on a question. So I said, okay, Terry, dial it in. Who can you help? So I kind of I repackaged and rethought through, which I kind of knew was going to happen. You know, you kind of go into a space not knowing, and then you gotta check it out and see where you might fit. And then, you know, did you have that experience where you kind of shifted or?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, it's just this year that I have decided that I wanted to keep my main focus being Christian women leaders. And that came through a lot of digging, like in myself, just like, where you can just make your brain dump. Who do I love to help? Why do
Yeah.
I love to help them? What is it that I want to help them do? And so through all of that and many, many pages later, my final answer was Christian women leaders. Um, and so what I've learned mostly this year is that we tend to want to help the same kind of person that we are or the same kind of person that we have been like recently. Um, and so I think that's why I just had, you don't really want to help. Well, not that you don't want to help the person, you just don't know how to help a person that is not something that you've gone through yourself. And so when you have that own personal experience, you can just put so much more into it. And there's just, I feel like, just a lot more passion. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can talk about your experiences, where you've been, you know, where you're trying to go, and the pitfalls, right? I'm all about, you know, learning from other people's mistakes because there's just so many to make.
Yes, we definitely make those as entrepreneurs. And the great thing is with entrepreneurs, we also don't mind accepting our mistakes. I know I've been in business a long time, and there's a lot of times that people will not accept the responsibility unless the turnout was good. And with entrepreneurs, we're like, oh, yeah, 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 you wouldn't believe what I tried before. And it bombed. It's just like you mentioned ClickFunnels, and he specifically talks about all the things he did before, and not that they weren't good, they just weren't his passion, and also it wasn't the thing that he was supposed to then focus on. And sometimes you've got to go through a lot of other things before you find what your true focus or your true passion is going to be.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. And that I always kind of felt in the education world, I was giving, I was doing, but I felt really capped. Like it was just very limit. There was a limit that was really a real struggle for me, or is. I'm still working. Uh,
Right.
I feel I feel like between the constraints of you know, the systems and the ladders and the administration and And then of course, regulation, there's all these pieces that sometimes prevent me from being the creative person that I feel I am. And, taking that and making that, gift offered to people. I do it a lot with my students. I love to help them kind of parse out where they could go, how they would get there. I really enjoy that advising process. But when it comes to the programs and even some of the courses,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of ideas. Like if I had my way in this space, the teacher model would look just like the doctor model, like the residency, where a teacher would have like an assistant, like a resident to help them, and that resident would learn. They would be paid. It would be over time. So I think there's just so much potential. Just it would just the change. I'm a little bit fast moving for education, I think.
Yes, yes, and it is definitely a slow process. I've worked in the school system for years, a long time ago, and I was in elementary school, and I loved a lot of things about it, but it's definitely not staying with the times. Like it's definitely still stuck, like I don't know, in the 50s or something. Um,
Or the
there's so
20s.
many.
Some of them are pretty.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that should be taught that really should just be basics, um, and they're not even talked about. And of course, it's not the teacher's fault because they have to follow their guides. But yeah, it's very interesting. My
Yeah.
daughter-in-law is in that space right now, and she's already seeing that she's going to get out. So. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about how you balance things. You've got four kids, very young. You've got all this entrepreneurial passion that's going on. You've got a spouse. You've got a lot of things going on in your life. How do you keep a balance?
Yeah, and I think that's my ninja trick. The one that's worked for me, right, is what I want to share with people, and it's really, sectioning off the time of your day. I have four kids. I try to make sure that each of them gets time with me, one on one, or whether it's playing a game or reading. My husband and I block off time both to spend together, to date night, to talk, all those things. I'm very also very careful about not doing the whole like overachieving, need to work 90 hours a week, at work. I really try to maximize the time that I have, and then say, you don't have access to me at 8 o'clock at night. That's my husband time. I'm sorry. My kids go to bed at 7:30. We don't have a lot of we really don't flex that because they need to sleep, and mom and dad need either our together time or our friend time, or talking about serious issues. I really try to balance that out, and be really strategic about it. And when things start to get out of balance, I stop and I look at the calendar. My Google Calendar has like 16 colors on it. On purpose, I share my calendar with my mom and my husband, and we kind of make sure those pieces fit. And I think it can be done. Well, I know it can be done. Geez, I'm sorry about this noise. I don't know what's open
So
here.
you're just living proof.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So I wonder if
Um,
I wonder if an example would be something that you could provide. Like, so do you use a paper planner and a digital, or do you do one or the other?
Just digital, yeah, because there's just no way for me to keep because like I said, my mom needs to know where I am because she helps with the kids sometimes, and my husband, if anything comes up, they know where we are. Because for before COVID, I was doing consulting in the tri-state, so I might be in New Jersey, I might be in Massachusetts. You just never know where I am. So you got a kid with a bloody nose at school, and somebody's got to get him.
Yes.
So I definitely, and I have actually separate calendar. I do both have Acuity for my business, and then I have Calendly for my students. So I allow them space on my calendar to make a meeting with me if they need advisement, particularly again with COVID. So I used, and actually I gave my Calendly to my friends as well, because it was just so hard to hop on a call or make a date, a coffee date, that I sent that out to my friend. I have like my close friends. I said,
Right.
just book a time. Let's hang out. I was like, I don't have like the back and forth of, can you do this day at this time, an
I
hour?
know. Oh
Too
my goodness. I have
much.
some friends and we do that and it could be a little irritating. It's like, oh my goodness, at this point we should have just met for coffee. So,
Right.
so
So, and I think there's a doodle. Have you used the doodle?
I haven't.
Okay, so that also for both like meetings at work and friends, like we have like a cookie baking day with my cousins, so we doodle. I think it's called doodle, where you put in like 5 or 6 options and let everybody pick, and then you could see the matrix of, does it fit for you?
That's cool.
Oh my gosh, it's great. So getting multiple people's calendars lined up, and then you just pick the max, day with the max. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, the calendar, and but it's just integrating all of those, color coding it, and making sure you have in there things that are really important.
Hmm. Right. Okay. Well, that's good. And I have not heard of that before. I'm one of the people that really loves a paper planner. I really just like pen or pencil to the paper, and I do a lot on my Google. I do. However, I just really like having my paper. So I'm one of those crazy people.
Well, I for years, I went to college in New York, and the New York City Public Library calendar was my absolute favorite for years and years. It's just the spaces were right, the weeks were right, the months were right. I loved it. Um, so that was when it was just for me, right? That was gold, and I actually still have them. It's kind of fun to look back, but now that I have to share it, the digital is optimal, because then my mom will say, "Oh, I want to take this one overnight. Does this work?" And she'll check and see where everybody is. It's actually been really wonderful.
That makes sense. I just don't have the children to put into that, but I could see definitely if someone's got the kiddos. I've got actually the other extreme. I have our mom has lived with us for 10 and a half years, and then my uncle moved in with us in January, and they both have some physical and some mental things that we work with,
Yeah.
and so they wouldn't even be able to use a digital calendar, and so I don't have the reason to jump onto a digital like that, but I can see if it's someone's got either a team or people in their family that it could be really helpful for sure.
Yes. Yeah, the team thing, I've been thinking about that a lot, because I'm planning for this to grow and for me to have folks.
Right, right.
Um, you
So
know,
that should, if it's not already, that should be part of your training is the Calendly. I use that a little bit and I want to actually use it more. So I need to jump into that and use that more because when I am setting up Zooms and things, that is something that I use some of the time, but I don't use it all the time. So I should use it more.
and it's so useful for like two people, right? You give me yours or I give you mine, and it's just easy rather than going back and forth.
Right.
It's just been wonderful. And we just hired an online tax strategist in the space, and she has that kind of system because she works with us once a month and then once a quarter, and it's so easy to go in and schedule it rather than the emails back and forth. And actually one of them I double booked, so I just changed it. I didn't even have to reach out to her. I just moved it on her calendar. She has a reschedule link. It was beautiful. um,
Nice.
so efficient. Yeah, and then the fact that the sort of base level one person is free.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yes.
As long as you're not, you don't have like a big team, and like if using it for work has been beautiful, because my students, I have grad students, I have undergrad students, like some folks unfortunately got COVID in my class. So, makeups and let me check in. And I placed the student teachers, which has been one of the toughest, placing student teachers during a pandemic. I should write a book. So the Calendly link helps when there's a SOS student who has a question.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Well,
Yeah.
what other kind of advice could you think of that would be helpful to give to people today?
Um, so I think that it's always great to think about your sort of 20-year, 10-year and 5-year vision. I find that without that, you say, okay, because sometimes people say, oh, I wish I would make some more money, or I wish I would have some more freedom, or they're watching HGTV, right? And they say, I want that kitchen, or, and I find that with folks just kind of being open about that, um, you're not going to be successful. So one of the things that I really, really want people to think about is, where do you want to be in 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, and then back into it, and create your goals for the year with that in mind. Like my husband and I, when we were dating, kind of dreamed of building a house. And I think because we had that, things just started to happen, and some people say the universe conspires, right? When you have something you're going after, but part of it too is like the Holy Spirit speaks to you in ways that you don't even realize sometimes, and through people,
Yes.
right? So without that sort of long-term vision, the Holy Spirit really you can't make these connections. So I love the idea of saying, okay, where would you want to retire, for instance, or where do you want your kids to go to school? What kind of house do you want? And what does it take to get there? And the one thing that's so cool about this online space is that we all have gifts to give, right? We all have the ability to serve others globally, if we just kind of look at those pieces and put them together. So the exciting thing for me is, like, I have these really special, my two younger kids are in Montessori, and that's something that the mindset piece, right? If I said I can't afford Montessori, it's just not for me. I didn't grow up, wealthy. My parents don't have a trust. So if I kind of kept saying that and pushed my vision out, they wouldn't be going there. But to say, okay, this is my vision, this is what I really want. How do I make it happen? Right? Instead of taking the thought process of, well, that's for somebody else. Those blessings are for other children. I don't believe that. I don't believe that when God or the Holy Spirit starts to give you yearnings and give you pulls in certain areas, that lean into that, feel into that, dream into that. And I love your brain dump idea. Um, Sometimes things will come out if you just give yourself the space to pray and write and let it out. I think it's all, just so beautiful. And my next dream for me is to have a house on the ocean, because my whole life the message was, oceanfront is too expensive because of flood insurance, right? Well, what? So what, right? What? Who am I not to live there? Like, who am I not to, serve enough people that's where I live. If that's what so I'm breaking through, limiting my own limiting beliefs, and I think the key to that is vision. Really looking at
Yes.
vision, what's
I
out there.
can completely, I can completely envision our next home. Like, I know exactly what it looks like. I've drawn it. I don't know exactly where it's located, but I have a good idea
Yeah.
of, like, like the space that it's in. I know what the property looks like, everything. Like, I can explain, I can describe it to you. So I think that, and that's something that I've just learned this year too. Like, I've always known to have goals. I've always known to have a vision. But this year specifically, I have gotten deep into that and allowing God to work um, in me and for me to be open to that. And so, and I think that's one of the things too, like a lot of times, um, either as entrepreneurs, as moms, or whatever, we want this. We want to do this. We want to have that. We want this for our children or whatever. But then we're not open to it when it becomes available. Oh my goodness. So That is something that, and it's funny because people in our area, like in our sphere, like our family or our church, or even the people in my household, like I said, my mom and my uncle live with us. They're like, "When are we moving? Where are we moving?" Or something like that. I'm like, I don't know, but I know that God's working on it. I know that He has a plan because He would not be putting this in my mind and in my heart so deep. I mean, like, it is embedded. So there's no way that this would be such a passion if it weren't to be. And so I think that with that, having God first also means you've got to be open to when He is guiding you through the Spirit, because um, there's just too many times that I hear people, like you were saying, who am I? Um, that's too expensive. I can't afford it. But instead, it should be God will find the way. God makes the way. God is the way. And I just need to be open to that. And so I think that would be a big thing that people, whether you're entrepreneur or not, people in general just need to be more open to.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it's in this strange, again, there's this weird path that we never saw for ourselves. Like if you asked me, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, if I'd be sitting here talking to you, I would say you are out of your mind. What are you talking about? I have no idea. And so it's just, and I hear this story. There's a couple that is doing marriage ministry. They're pretty big. They do this
Paul and Stacy.
XO conference. Is that?
Yeah, Paul and Stacy.
Yeah, and I mean, wow, their story and their obedience, and it's just I always remember that a lot of folks who are doing really powerful things are on a path that they never could have imagined, but were obedient to what they were hearing and obedient to their call. And it's just amazing what God can do. And it's generally not something you would have thought of, or
Right, right. I mean, God created the heavens and the earth. For goodness sake, surely He's going to give me what He is placing in my heart. So, my goodness. But then I didn't have to be there to say, "Okay, God, I'll let you create the heavens and the earth. I'm gonna give you that." But at the same time, here and now, with the free will that He gave us, He is not going to push His will on me, even if it's for my better, because He always is good. So even if it's for my betterment, He still will not push it on me. He will allow me to say, "That's a little too good for me. That's a little too much awesomeness for me." So, so He's going to allow me to make that decision, and so I decided this year, for sure, to just focus more on what He's already telling me, and to for me to stop trying to stop Him,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. And I sometimes I'll drive down the street and I'll look at other people's houses or their cars, and I'll say, oh, I don't really have a desire to put a gazebo in my front yard, and I just think about like, but like we're all just so different in terms of what's in us that we want to, do and have and be, like people, friends who are artists or friends who are, and I'm like, ooh, I just couldn't do that. That's not for me. And it just reminds me that what is in me is for me. Like it's not, I'm not having these desires. I'm not having these dreams or visions or like being pulled for no reason, like because I'm not being pulled to be a firewoman, like it's just not my thing, right? Kudos and thankful for all the fire people,
Yes.
not my thing. And so when people kind of try to smush down those dreams, I try to catch them and say, wait a minute, I have a friend, she's been on Wall Street for a long time, but she's always wanted to open up a florist. She goes in, she's accountant, she crunches numbers, but in her heart's desire, she wants to be a florist. And I'm like, man, the day that you take that step, your
Mm.
whole life is going to change.
Right.
So I love talking to people about, what they, what's inside them, what they would be
Yes.
doing. I love the question, if money were no object, what would you do?
Yes. Yes. Because that's what God is expecting us to do. Because, money's just a tool, just like your car or the computer or anything else. It's just a tool.
Yeah,
Well,
and
Terri, I have really enjoyed talking with you, but I do want to go ahead and wrap up. Is there anything else that you'd like to? Well, how about you tell everybody how they can find you?
oh, sure. So Terri Lynne, it's TerriLynne.com. There's my website. I have a little opt-in if you want to check out. And I'll be putting up links. I did just start a free group to start talking about planning and strategizing. So you're totally welcome to join that. So if you find me online, feel free to friend request me. I'm open. I'm just starting, so I'd love. And if you wanted me to be on your show or in your group, please let me know. I'd love to talk to as many folks as possible as I get started. So thank
Yes,
you.
and that's actually how you get to be known is by jumping on to these things like this and just letting your heart speak. And the people that then are open to their heart, then they'll follow you from there. Yeah,
God willing, right?
yeah,
God's gonna make it. God will make the way, right?
absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time. And folks, I appreciate the time that you've taken to watch this today. And remember to hashtag replay and let us know how we can serve you in the future. And I have the saying, Terri, that I'm going to end with. And I've been saying this for years. And I just want to say, remember to perform random acts of awesome. All right. You guys have a great day.
Thank
Bye.